Something dramatic is unfolding in America's auto industry, and it's not just about cars. Three of the biggest German automakers, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi, are pulling back from the US market. They're slowing shipments, canceling factory expansions, and in some cases, stopping sales entirely. Not because Americans stopped buying their cars, but because of one shocking move from Donald Trump. With a single tweet, Trump imposed a sudden 25% tariff on all foreign-made cars and auto parts. There was no warning, no meeting with industry leaders, just a blunt message on social media. If you don't make it in the US, you won't sell it in the US. That line sent shockwaves through the industry. Instead of attracting new factories, the move is now driving out some of the most advanced manufacturers already here. And this isn't just about a few lost shipments. It's a signal, one that says the US may no longer be a reliable partner in the global auto market. What's important to understand is that you can't rebuild a car supply chain overnight. These systems involve thousands of precision components, countless suppliers, and years of investment. Disrupt them suddenly, and the whole thing begins to crack. Jobs vanish, factories pause, and entire communities that depend on the industry start to bleed. German brands moved fast. Mercedes paused its shipments. Audi pulled out entirely. BMW dropped a major plan to expand its US operations in the hope of getting around the tariffs. These aren't just business decisions, they're warnings. And while the US throws up trade barriers, the rest of the world is racing ahead. Europe and China are pumping billions into electric vehicles, battery plants, and charging networks. Chinese brands like BYD are going global. Europe is setting the EV standard. And the US? It's making life harder for foreign innovators without offering real domestic alternatives. So what does this mean for the future of America's role in the global auto race? Hit that like button and subscribe, because today we're diving into the turning point that could define who leads and who gets left behind. Let's begin with how German automakers are reacting to these new tariffs. In April, US President Donald Trump sent a tweet that changed everything. In that tweet, he announced a 25% tariff on all imported cars and auto parts. His message was clear. Only those who produce in America may sell here. This surprised everyone. There was no warning, no planning, and no talks with companies beforehand. Many car companies, especially German ones like BMW and Mercedes-Benz, were hit hard. Even though they build cars in the US, BMW in South Carolina and Mercedes in Alabama, they still bring in important car parts from other countries. These parts include electric batteries, transmissions, and control units, most of which are made in Europe or Mexico. The new tariffs made these parts much more expensive, which made building cars in the US much harder and more costly. In 2024, BMW solidified its position as the leading luxury car brand in the US, selling more than 371,000 vehicles, a 2.5% increase from the previous year. Mercedes-Benz, despite a 9% sales boost, delivered 325,000 vehicles, trailing behind both BMW and Lexus. These figures underscore the substantial market share German automakers hold in the US. Beyond sales, these companies have made significant investments in US manufacturing. BMW's Spartanburg plant in South Carolina, operational since 1994, is the company's largest. It produces up to 1,500 vehicles a day. From the X3 to the flagship XM, Mercedes-Benz also maintains substantial operations in the US, contributing significantly to local economies and employment. German engineering's influence permeates the US automotive industry through critical component supplies. Companies like ZF Friedrichshafen provide advanced transmissions and steering systems, while Continental AG supplies tires, brake systems, and vehicle electronics. Drexel Meyer Group specializes in wiring harness systems and battery components essential for electric vehicles. These components are vital for US automakers, including Ford, GM, and Stellantis. The integration of German parts ensures the performance, safety, and innovation of American vehicles. Disruptions in this supply chain could lead to production delays, increased costs, and compromised vehicle quality. The imposition of a 25% tariff on imported vehicles and parts by the US government has already caused significant strain. German automakers face annual tariff-related costs estimated between $2 billion and $4 billion. These financial burdens may lead to reduced investments in US operations and potential job losses. Audi faced an even bigger problem. Unlike BMW or Mercedes, Audi does not make any cars in the US. It imports all of its vehicles. Because of the tariff, the cost of selling Audis in America went up so much, up to 200%, that it became nearly impossible to sell them. Audi had to stop shipping cars to the US and cancel its business plans. But the damage didn't stop with car makers. The tariffs started to hurt local communities, car parts suppliers, and even dealerships across America. And this was just the beginning. The economic repercussions of Trump's sweeping 2025 auto tariffs are now being most acutely felt not in Washington or Berlin, but in quiet American towns that once thrived on global cooperation. Places like Spartanburg, South Carolina, and Tuscaloosa, Alabama, became economic success stories not through federal aid or domestic investment alone, but through long-term partnerships with German automakers, BMW and Mercedes-Benz, respectively. These weren't just factory towns. They were proof of how globalization can work. The Spartanburg plant supports, both directly and indirectly, 43,000 jobs across the state, along with $3.1 billion in wages and salaries. The economic gravity of BMW has turned Spartanburg into a regional economic hub, elevating wages, stabilizing property markets, and creating secondary growth in hospitality, education, and real estate. Similarly, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, anchored by Mercedes-Benz's U.S. assembly plant, has become the beating heart of Alabama's auto sector. Mercedes employs over 6,000 workers directly and has helped establish Alabama as the third largest auto exporter in the U.S., and even claimed the #1 position in 2024. Yet both regions suffer from chronic economic fragility beneath the surface. Spartanburg County's poverty rate still hovers around 15%, and it ranks low in per capita income across the state. Alabama ranks among the top 5 poorest states in the U.S., and many rural counties near Tuscaloosa rely disproportionately on the automotive sector to fund public schools, infrastructure, and health systems. When these anchor factories slow production or reduce output due to tariff-induced component shortages, the fiscal ripple spreads fast. Job cuts, business closures, tax revenue declines, and ultimately cuts to public services. This is why Trump's 2025 tariff hike poses existential threats to such regions. What was intended as a nationalistic protection of American car jobs instead disrupted the very foreign investment that sustained many of these jobs. BMW and Mercedes don't just assemble in America, they export American-made cars globally. The BMW X5 and X6, both made in Spartanburg, are exported to over 100 countries. Tariffs that increase the cost of German-engineered parts jeopardize the affordability and global competitiveness of these exports. With production lines delayed or halted due to the high costs of imported parts, especially precision German components like transmissions, electrical systems, and sensors, over 2,500 U.S. suppliers have already seen orders slashed. Many are small to medium businesses, often located in industrial Midwestern towns like Grand Rapids or in suburban California. Dozens have closed. Many more are on life support. Meanwhile, dealerships in the U.S. now face a shortage of both new vehicles and parts, especially for luxury brands. Customers are frustrated, dealers are overwhelmed, and inventories are shrinking. Interestingly, this is giving China an opportunity with Germany. Germany and China are becoming stronger partners in the car industry, especially in electric vehicles. Instead of depending on the U.S., German automakers looked for safer, more profitable places to invest. That's where China came in. China welcomed German car makers with open arms. It offered something that the U.S. didn't: political stability, a huge car market, and strong support for electric cars. While the U.S. was raising taxes and building trade barriers, China gave German companies a chance to grow. And they didn't just move some factories to China, they moved their top engineers, designers, and research teams. In other words, they brought the brains of their operations with them. Let's look at some examples. BMW made a big move in 2022 when it increased its ownership in its China joint venture, BMW Brilliance Automotive, to 75%. This was a major deal because it made BMW one of the first foreign car companies to own most of its Chinese business. Then BMW announced it would build a huge new factory in Lydia, a city in Shenyang, focused only on electric cars. This new plant costs more than 2 billion euros and is BMW's biggest project in China. Volkswagen has also gone all in on China. In 2020, it took control of its joint venture with a local Chinese company called JAC Motors and named the new business Volkswagen Anhui. They are building a large factory to make 350,000 electric cars each year. Volkswagen also spent 1 billion euros to set up a new innovation center in China called 100% Tech Co., where they'll design and build fully connected electric cars just for the Chinese market. Audi, another German luxury brand, teamed up with Chinese tech companies like Huawei and IM Motors. Audi is working with SAIC to use their electric car platform. Audi is also helping build smart cars in Chinese cities like Wuxi, where the cars will be able to talk to traffic lights and roads using advanced technology. These partnerships help Audi build faster and smarter EVs, something the US market isn't offering right now. Now in 2025, it is likely that these automakers will focus more on their factories in China and move their operations from the United States if these tariff issues are not resolved on time. These aren't just about building cheaper cars. This shift means that the knowledge and innovation behind some of the best cars in the world is moving to China. Germany's top car companies are now using Chinese talent, Chinese tech, and Chinese money to build the future of driving. In contrast, the US is becoming less attractive for these companies. Trump's trade war, tariffs, and tough talk have made the US a risky place to do business. At first, it looked like a win for Detroit, the symbolic heart of America's car industry. With Audi, BMW, and Mercedes pushed out by tariffs, American giants like Ford, GM, and Stellantis had the playing field all to themselves. Less foreign competition meant more room to grow, at least in theory. But that victory was short-lived. These same US automakers rely heavily on imported components, batteries, control chips, EV electronics, all hit by the same 25% tariff. Suddenly, the cost of making cars in America skyrocketed. Ford alone said it lost $1.5 billion under the new rules. GM and Stellantis even stopped offering earnings forecasts, admitting they couldn't predict what came next. Worse still, with German brands gone, so was the pressure to innovate. Cadillac and Lincoln tried to seize the luxury market, but prestige takes time, and German engineering had set a bar that wouldn't be matched overnight. Detroit thought it had won. Instead, it inherited a broken supply chain, rising costs, and an innovation vacuum. The tariffs meant to help US automakers ended up hurting them too, turning a quick win into a long-term loss. Car companies now have to ask, will these tariffs stay, or will they be removed? BMW's CEO Oliver Zipse said he believes the US will lower the tariffs by July 2025. But even if that happens, the damage has already been done. BMW lost 25% of its profits in just 3 months. In the meantime, companies must make hard choices. Should they invest more in the US and risk more losses? Or should they shift their business to countries like China that offer a more stable environment? Tariffs are a blunt instrument. While they can offer short-term protection to vulnerable industries, they also introduce friction in high-tech sectors that thrive on global integration. The US attempt to force localization without the necessary supporting ecosystem has backfired. Investors, engineers, and suppliers seek predictable regulatory environments. Germany found none of that in the US. The United States used to be a leader in electric vehicle innovation through Tesla. But now, Tesla and other US companies are falling behind. Since Trump started the trade and tariff wars in 2025, the American EV industry has struggled to keep its strong position globally. These trade wars have hurt business ties and scared off investors. While the US ties itself in political knots, Europe and China are racing ahead, German precision and Chinese battery tech are now combining to build the future of electric mobility without the US at the table. The question now is simple. Will America reclaim its place in the EV race? Or will it end up watching from the sidelines as others shape the road ahead? For more clear updates on global trends, trade shifts, and the future of economic power, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.